So a couple things I've heard here. Meshtastic use for large events. I think that's a great idea. I think one of the that would be a great idea as we go into football season. Maybe have a field day where we go out there and test the. Okay, got some chatter there. Test the Meshtastic network. I think that'd be an awesome idea. What the way that the way that I'm currently looking at our network here in Oklahoma City, we've got really an anchor site on Sand Ridge at 123 Robert S. Kerr downtown.
Yeah, something like that.
Okay. Yeah, it's 390 feet, and that site by far as from where I live, I get the most performance off that. Almost every message that I send, when I send trace routes, they go through that node, and I get really great performance coming back from there. Chuck, we put a site up on the Edmond Granary down on 3rd Street in Edmond. Chuck and Steven and I put it up there. It's Chuck's node. Is it still up?
It's still there. I haven't, mine died on the way up from Costa Rica. Yeah.
Can anyone else see Chuck's node? You can't? I haven't seen it on my map lately. We might have to go up there and reset that here next week. Okay, great. And other than that, I think that there's a couple of router sites. I think there's one in Bethany and maybe one that pops up somewhere over by Tinker. I get trace routes. It's the Burford or Buford router, I think. I don't know the exact location of those. So my thoughts is Meshtastic released a site planner on their website, and it allows you to go and simulate coverage. I'm not sure from an RF perspective how accurate it is. I don't know if anyone's played around with it at all. Has anyone played around with Site Planner, the Meshtastic Site Planner? How close does it work? I mean, it works pretty well? Okay. I think.
Like I live in a valley somewhat.
Yeah.
And it shows like okay, since there's a valley there, then you're not going to get out as well towards this direction.
Okay.
So I mean, it's somewhat accurate.
You know, there's another software package that I use because I set up for Peters. There's another package I use that's much more sophisticated, and the results between Ed and if you use their site planner are usually within about 5% of each other.
Okay.
So it's pretty dead nuts on the stuff there. You might occasionally get a signal where you wouldn't get a signal, or occasionally not get a signal type thing, but it's, you know, within probably 5 dB of what actually happens. But if you've got like a big ridge line or something that's going to make a huge difference, it'll tell you real quick where you've got shadows.
Okay. So I think it would at least be a start. So one of the calls to action, I think that I would encourage everyone to play around with that a little bit. Maybe take a look at your areas where you don't have coverage and take a look and see where a good location would be. See if we've got any opportunities there with local radio clubs or even businesses that may have like a 3rd-story rooftop. I think these activities are. Go ahead, Chuck.
Yeah, for Norman, we've got to go down there and align that antenna for that RDN.
Okay.
It's on the physical science building. That's 200 feet high. If we can get a node together to put up there, we can put that up there too.
Yeah, that'd be a great location. I mean, that would really.
Right there.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Let me ask a $64 question.
Go ahead.
And maybe the equipment that I have is misconfigured, but Norman is like it just seems like a dead spot. There's nothing down there.
Yeah.
There's nothing down there.
There is very little in both Norman and Western Moore, because my main note is the Matt Station one that I know was getting out pretty well for a while. Seems I'm in even more of a dead spot now on what's going on with that. I'll probably need to play with it some, but very little gets in or out of basically that entire area of the metro. Like there's.
Is it just because there's no nodes out there?
There are some
geographical reasons, or
I think it's a combination of kind of all the above. There's not many nodes. There are some enough that I think you should be able to get out, especially since my node is a station G2, so you know I can transmit at max legal power. So there's something going on there. Definitely need more nodes. If nothing else, could try to brute force it that way. But
So our guests on the Arden Bridge. Yeah, so I think that I think node placement in some strategic locations, definitely going to be something that we need to look at. And I mean, I had notes on the way here, but I had a little unfortunate accident along the way, so I'm just kind of reading off here on some of the locations. Like I know, for instance, the GMRS repeater is at 39th and Lincoln. That site, that tower is like, what, a 300-foot? 320. And I know that rent is pretty cheap there, so I mean that might be an opportunity to get some cheap rent, put a node there. I know that would be a that would.
Is that the old Black's radio tower?
That is Radio H.
There is a 900 megahertz antenna on there right now
There is.
with coax run.
Oh,
It has Helix up the
It
tower.
just needs to be set up.
okay, all right,
It will need a filter on it and probably an amplifier because that's 300 foot of Helix. But it does have Helix and an antenna on the tower.
okay. And then we've got the on the southern end that would probably tie in real well with the physical science centers. I know you've got the South Canadian Amateur Radio Society has a tower. I don't know if anyone's a member of that club. I've been down there to a couple of their meetings before, but you know, I don't know if they would be a willing participant to allow us to, yeah.
They're the ones that are helping us get on the building at OU.
Okay. And I know, I've heard you on the Edmund repeater, Richard, GBQ, KJ5 GBQ. Yeah, maybe the Edmund Amateur Radio Society might be interested. I know they've got a new tower coming up, don't they, in Edmond?
Owned by City of Edmond.
Oh, gotcha.
They
Yeah.
are putting some Arden stuff up there, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
The Edmund tower that's going up on North Edmond.
Yeah, in fact, N5ZQ just dropped me a note yesterday, said that, they had got a space up there, but, pardon.
That's kind of in the works.
Okay. So there are some potential locations. I know we've talked in the past about Mercy Hospital. I know the coverage from the Meshtastic site planner. It really, I mean, that thing a node up there would really sing too. That would really fill in some coverage gaps in that part of the city.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That one's in process along with Baptist.
Okay. And that's one of the.
Anthony's.
Okay. So that's one of the things I wanted to talk about. So building out locations, I mean, we need some people to help volunteer to put up equipment. I know that I've got several nodes built I could deploy. I'm willing to contribute in that manner. I know we've got some people that are starting nonprofits that might have some funds that they might be willing to kick in. And I know Jeff had mentioned in the past about there might be some funding available from the ARRL. So I think one of the things like today that we need to think about is really trying to figure out how can we get organized? I mean, do we align our efforts more with like a joint venture with like the amateur emergency radio network like Aridon? Or I'm open to all kinds of ideas and willing to participate in any way possible. But I think really we need access to key sites more than anything. And then we need to work on densification of the network through maybe some rooftop sites in neighborhoods. And I think once we develop that initial infrastructure build out, I think then really you can really start running some neat services over Meshtastic. I know I wanted Adam to talk about what he's built for Meshtastic, and he's built a Gemini API that actually runs a API AI where you can actually send commands. He's got a bot running on the network, and you can do all kinds of cool stuff with that.
It's actually currently down right now.
Okay.
R2D2 is down. I kind of been trying to experiment with my outdoor node, and I broke my outdoor node because I coded it with some type of conformal coding, and it had kind of glued my USB connector to it. And I'm like, oh crap, it's stuck. And so like I tried pulling it, and come to find out it just pulled the USB cable, it just tore up the USB cable, and the connector was still in it. So R2D2 is down for now, but yeah, originally you could issue a command, and the command was @AI, and then you would do a space, and then you could ask it a question, and it would respond accordingly. The code for integrating with the Gemini API is super simple. You just need an API key, and matter of accessing a URL with your API key and your question, and it responds accordingly. I think in a certain format. Okay. And the format is known as JSON, JavaScript Object Notation, and it's just a way of being able to see the data in a structured format, so you can do whatever you want with it. So, R2D2 does other things as well. I mean, you can ask it its weather, ask it the weather for where you're currently located. There's other little fun commands like you can ask it a joke. I do have a filter on it to kind of filter out kind of bad words and whatnot. Try to keep it PG-13, family oriented. It does other things like you can look up a person's amateur radio call sign and see the information on that. It has a trivia module. We call them gems. And in the world of Ruby, it's written in Ruby. I know Python is super popular right now, but I come from a world of Ruby, and I've been developing in Ruby for like 20 years. So that's my kind of cup of tea. That's what I excel in, and I wrote it in Ruby. So there's so many other commands that it has, but yeah, it's been down for a bit. I did finally put up my node up in the pergola outdoor, so I don't know when R2D2 will be back. So.
And I think that's really fascinating, like what you can do, because you could build like a large language model on a Raspberry Pi, and this is some stuff that I've been reading, and you can do all kinds of cool things with that. Like you could aggregate data, message flow in from the network to like a node that was at a strategic location, like on Sand Ridge, say weather alerts. You could push weather alerts, and then it would actually notify the network. You can connect sensors to these Meshtastic nodes that collect weather data, aggregate that weather data. You could possibly push that into your large language model to, determine environmental variables that would alert for possible thunderstorms. I think there's just all kinds of cool things that you could do with like a Raspberry Pi connected to the Meshtastic network. We've talked a lot about like bridge and Eridan data over Meshtastic, like to use it to fill in some of the gaps there for emergency alerts.
Well, not only that, but link, say like Chris, who's on here listening to us, down in Duncan. We don't have many people down there. If we can get something down, then he'll have more to demonstrate down there.
Absolutely, absolutely.
The guys down in Costa Rica, same way.
Yeah. So, I mean, the future, I mean, it's a great time. It's a very exciting time to be in radio right now with all of the different things that you can do from a technology perspective. And AI has made it where it's pretty easy, where even someone like myself who doesn't really have a serious background in programming at all, I was able to get the Gemini API running over one of my nodes, and the only thing that stopped, it was able to work, and I programmed it to an API key for weather, and you could send exclamation point weather and based on and the city, and it would come back with the current forecast or traffic. And I had I had API keys that were written in my Python script for that. But I was able to use some of the available tools online like ChatGPT or whatever to work with the code and hash out the code. I currently got stuck on the pagination feature because I couldn't, it would truncate at 200 characters per message, and I've been struggling a little bit with the more command to get it to reply with more messages. But all kinds of neat stuff. But I think initially that until we can do that, we got to have a solid network at first. And so I think that's one of the things I want to take away from today is to call upon all of you guys to see what we can do to reach out to our radio clubs. Let's look at the Meshtastic site planner. Let's find some locations where our network is a little weak, and let's fill them in with some great sites. And what do we need to do that? I think everybody here's got a lot of different outreach capabilities and ability to reach out to their clubs. So maybe those are some conversations that we need to start having. Other than that, I'm a little bit unprepared today. Forgive me, my little wreck that I got in on the way here. But The only other thing I want to talk about is I noticed that they released the Meshtastic 2.6 this week. And with that I think the big feature that I saw in it was it fixed the direct messaging routing. So rather than flooding the network with packets, there's a more strategic routing that has been implemented. I think Jeff or maybe Yuri or Jeff could speak more to that.
A little bit there, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Otherwise you won't hear me. I recognize that microphone. That was stolen from Tulsa? Yeah. All right. Yeah, I'll kind of cover everything that kind of came out in the preview, because there's multifacets to it, and it's not a minor changes we're talking about there. I think they said somewhere in the order of how many lines of code just for the UI.
I think it was like 18,000.
It was more. Yeah, it was like 20,000. I think there. Let me see. I'll get to that in a second, but. 12,000 lines of handwritten code and 50,000 lines of generated code ported to 10 different devices. So that's a pretty big accomplishment that they went through. This has been underway for a while. The first thing that they talked about is what's called next hop routing. As you guys know, right now it's a flooding algorithm that just kind of floods everything out there. Sometimes great, sometimes not so great. If you ever do the Meshtastic monitor software and ever watch it doing there, sometimes you're just like, holy cow, how can that even be effective? Because you'll see a whole bunch of nodes at once trying to transmit on each other. Basically what happens with the managed flooding is once it establishes a path between you and where you're trying to go, an intermediate node in between, it does what's called next hop, and that basically defines a single path to go there as opposed to flooding everything. There are things added to the code that make it do the next hop, but in all cases, if the next hop fails, you'll fall back to managed flooding and go that route. So it's not like it tries one way and then it just dies. They believe the effectiveness of getting a message through will be much higher. So basically, the first time you transmit and try to send a message from you to somebody else, it's going to be a flood because it doesn't know the right route to go. But as soon as it gets the information that comes back and says, hey, this is the route that it went through to get to you, as soon as it goes through that process, then it's going to say, I've got a good path. Let's try this the next time. But when it tries it the next time, if it doesn't work, then it's going to revert again back to managed flooding, keep on going through there. So that'll be a huge upgrade in terms of private messages. Usually the public messages, they get out, but the private ones I've noticed it's difficult. Sometimes you retry 3-4 times to try to get somebody a message in the system. The next thing that they've done is the Meshtastic UI, which how many people here have like the T-Deck or those things that are a device that you've got at least one person. The first generation UI has been kind of lacking, to put it nicely there. This is much more feature related. It's a lot better. So they've actually made it, the new MUI is now compatible with the T-Deck, the Seed Sense Cap indicator, the Unphone, the Pico computer, things like that. But it also supports the Raspberry Pi running a LoRa device as well, which is nice to have as an additional feature. You've got a dashboard screen, node list, just like what you have with your phone, except now it's a single device. You're not tethered to a phone anymore. So they're really trying to see how that works out as a potential standalone devices and go that route. The next thing they put up that I just loved on this thing was what they call the Ink HUD, which is if you have an Ink device, it has a heads-up display. It gives you a lot more information than you get now. And so if you've got a Ink device, you're going to get a lot more information about what's going on around you, time, date, things like that, and it fills all the stuff in. What else did they do? Oh, the device state files are managed a lot better. They also now have a Meshtastic over LAN UDP. So instead of before, the only option you had over a network was go to your MQTT server of choice. They now have a UDP protocol that actually allows you to route over a LAN, similar to where how the mechanism works over the air, except now it's over a LAN. So if you have devices on a LAN, you should be able to tie them together without the need for MQTT as the intercessor between them.
Does it need a server or is it all?
It's all peer-to-peer. So that's what makes it really nice, is because you don't have to set up the server to get there. They also have a what they call a LoRa time or slot time calculation. By reducing the slot time, basically the slots, there's more of them, so the chances of two transmissions falling on top of each other gets reduced significantly, so it'll become more efficient. So that cuts down your number of packet collisions. So you can flash the preview. They're having a little bit of a fun way to get to it. They give you a place to go to grab it, but then they say you have to enter a special code. And what they did was they showed one of the old Nintendo game controllers, and they said a new firmware preview ready to flash, guarded gently by gaming past. Think NES, think Konami's name, enter the legend to unlock your claim. So, huh?
Up, down, left, right, A, B, select, start.
Exactly. So you know exactly. So so they have made it fun to download, try it out, what have you. It's called a preview because certainly it hasn't gone through the alpha or the beta testing, and so expect bugs in it, expect issues, but it is compatible with the existing network. Certainly the features within it, if you're working with somebody who does not have that firmware, you're not going to be able to use those features for obvious reasons. But if you have a few people that want to play with it, talk to them, get it all flashed down and play with it. Like I said, I wouldn't put it on a mission critical, someplace that's way up in the air site that if it crashes is hard to get to, because this will most likely crash many, many times. But it's a good view of what they're looking for the future of Meshtastic to be. And so that's excellent news on their part. So.
Lost track a little bit. Is there going to be the OTA update stuff?
Not in this one. No, there's no OTA updates in this preview. So. Yeah, it's a weird thing right there. There's some people that are really excited about OTA, and then there's some people that aren't. And the feeling I get is there isn't enough of critical mass right now that moves up to the top of the list for them to work on. So I think OTA will come, but I think it will be a slower feature than some of the other things.
We have to climb a tower just to update.
Yeah. Well, no, actually what you can do, and what I do with my stuff, is put a Linux box of some sort, normally a Raspberry Pi, tie it in via USB to there, and then you have the ability to do your firmware updates that way. You still have to have some type of Wi-Fi or LAN connection to get to that final destination, but it keeps you from having to use OTA to get over there to do your firmware upgrades. So. I've been doing both Pi Zeros and like Raspberry 4s and 5s on the whole thing. The 4s and 5s use a lot more current, so I prefer to go to a Pi Zero whenever I can, but I've gone either direction. Yep.
All right.
That's all I got on
Yeah.
that. Back to you.
Thanks, Jeff.
Yeah.
All right. One of the things that I've been working on this week is I've reached out to a good friend of mine who's a CEO of a wireless broadband company, and he provided me with some equipment for Aridon, but he's got, I believe, he's got about 25 different towers around the Oklahoma City area, so I think we might be able to connect some areas. Like I think he's got one in Newcastle. We've got open reign to start installing some nodes on some of those towers, so he's getting me a KML file this week.
Cell towers or?
They're cell towers, yeah, but he owns them. Yeah, they bought them with some broadband grant money and built them a few years ago. So yeah, he said go ahead and get out there and knock it out. So I'm going to need some people to probably come help me. One, I know Chuck's around. Chuck might be able to help. I know Chuck climbs. Anyone else that's willing to help? Yeah, we definitely would need some help doing that. So that's something that in the next coming weeks we'll be looking to do. We covered 2.6. Wanted to talk a little bit about Aridon, but I'm not the person to discuss that. So I wanted to see see if Chuck here would talk about the emergency radio, area emergency radio data network.
So guys, this
Yeah.
is another mesh program. The only difference is it is an amateur licensed band. So where Meshtastic is unlicensed and encrypted, this is, we are establishing a pretty solid Wi-Fi network around the city, and we'll branch out. But it is on licensed 2.4 and 5 gig frequencies. But we're shooting broadband everywhere. So we've got messaging, email, we've got cams everywhere, we've got voice over IP. If you're wondering about the phone that Roy's been holding up there, we're actually streaming this over the voice over IP network on Arden. So we're in a chat room on that, and we've been really expanding that here in the past month, 2 months, something like that. So that's what Chuck's will talk about today, and kind of give you a heads up on that. It is really cool.
Yeah, one of the real cool features I found about it is that you can make IP phone calls like over phones like this over RF. So that was pretty amazing.
To mention, we are 100% on RF. You can throttle through the internet, but I disconnected our internet connection. We're going through a dish that's on the roof down to Sand Ridge, and we're connecting to the servers through radio frequency. This is not connected through the internet at all. This is 100% ham radio right here.
And it sounds crisp and clear. I mean, it sounds like a regular phone call. I mean, it is amazing. It's something else.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It backs up through everything through the mesh system. So one site goes down, just like through the Meshtastic, it goes through other links. But Chuck will be able to tell us all about that.
If we've got something we can put on a TV, we can show the dynamic map.
It has the ability to do that. I don't know how.
Map of the Oklahoma City metro area. Everything is brown dashes, that's tunnels. We'd like to see those things go away. The green you're beginning to see, that's RF that's beginning to come up. And let's see if I can use, where's the pointer? There we are. All you folks down in this area down here, you should be able to connect to the Sandridge building, the sector antenna down there that looks east and southeast is up and running. The same way going up, oh, come here, where you go? Up this direction, that's up in Deer Creek. That's quite a link. Same thing, there's another sector antenna down there. So anybody, let's see.
We're getting over 10 miles high-speed internet through just single point-to-point locations.
Yeah, anybody in this area here, if they can get above the trees, they should have no trouble connecting to it. Because that link up there to Deer Creek, I think was
It's
it?
over 12 miles.
Yeah, it's out there. It's quite extensive. And we'll have some stuff going up, more stuff going up here. Let me see if I can spread this thing out a little bit. Yeah. Come on, resize. Well, okay, this is the node site at the granary in downtown Edmond. Those of you who've gone through Edmond, you see that granary. We've got a node site up there. There's both a Meshtastic node and an Arden node. And you guys are getting ready to put another point-to-point link up there. Is that what you got for up there? And that'll provide more coverage up in that area. Then they were talking about Edmond. The city is putting a 400-foot tower, I think, right about here. And we're going to be able to put a node site up there. Of course, part of it is everywhere we put an Arden site, we want to put a Meshtastic node also. So we want to take advantage of that. Of course, we've got, excuse me, we've got this site here That's the Edmond South node site. It doesn't have a Meshtastic node on it right now, but we need to go ahead and get one up there. As soon as we can get down to Norman, let's see, is this thing gonna? Well, I don't want it to spread out. Yeah.
The one difference on this, guys, we are 2.4 and 5 gigs, so we do need actual line of sight to make this work. That is the one downside that Meshtastic does win over because it's lower in the band.
Yeah.
But when you do establish line of sight, what you get out of it is absolutely phenomenal. And we're using off-the-shelf Wi-Fi equipment that is actually very reasonably priced. You do have to reflash it with ham radio code to get in the ham bands, which that's another part. We're in the ham band, so we get pretty much zero interference, little interference from the actual Wi-Fi on the radio network, the standard at-home Wi-Fi that you would have. So it is pretty cool.
And you can run, what services can you run over the network? You can run WinLink, you can run, of course, the IP phone. You can't, can you do WinLink?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I use what do they call it? Pat.
We're going to start getting some messaging apps, and Aaron's the WinLink guy. We can do email. Of course, we have the phone. We have a PBX on there now, so we have a full phone directory. And Aaron and I have done the voice over IP video chats. That's really easy. So there's a lot of cool stuff we can do with it. But mainly, we're just establishing a network that if and when the internet ever goes down or connections go down, this is up, no matter what.
So you could put you could put additional services on there as well. So if you wanted to,
Anything that's IP.
okay, so if you wanted to build like an offline large language model, you could incorporate that into Airden as well, right? Yeah.
The only thing is you just can't be encrypted.
Okay.
It's an encrypted traffic.
Got it.
Or encrypted with the code published, the encryption code published.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
If you look at the way the rule's written, it's not you can't do encrypted. You got to publish the key. You know, we had a big discussion about that some time back. And what it boils down to is, yes, you can use encrypted tools, but you got to publish the key. Once the key is published, that meets the law. But the nodes are set up to where, unless it's turned off, they block encryption to keep everybody's nose clean. So it would be a thing of turning that off to allow the encryption to go through.
But also, just a standard Wi-Fi setup off the shelf would not be able to get in on the Arden network, would it?
Okay, you have to have a encryption key, but that's the reason why we try to publish them. That keeps it legal. So,
Question.
Yep.
Can you use the WeBoost?
what's that?
The signal? The WeBoost, antenna boosters?
Why
That's
not?
mostly on cell phones, but I don't know. You could technically use an amplifier through a Wi-Fi setup.
No, the reason why I'm asking is because I have one too.
We'll probably need that on my tower trailer. Here, during the summer, I've got a 100-foot tower trailer that we're going to deck out and go do some stuff with, but we could use it on there for sure. Can you pull up the webcams by any chance?
Let's see here. I was trying to get a mouse to work on this thing.
Yeah, so you're on the secondary screen,
Yeah,
so the mouse you can see it.
I see it up there. Now then, how do I go to?
Alt-D, well, Control-T, Alt-D, and put in the...
Okay.
you essentially get everything 50 megahertz and above with a tech. If you want to do the HF stuff, which is really cool, you should check it out. You'll need your general, which is the next level.
Harden over HF?
No, but there are, of course, the other digital modes over HF. It's just, as far as I know, it's not, because it's high speed. Here, it's right here.
You do 11 megahertz on HF.
Oh, right here, which one is it?
Kill everybody.
Hold on. Where is it? There it is.
All right. Am I up there to enter the?
There you go. Well, I thought, hold on. Wrong one. Okay, now Alt-T. There you go. Yeah, the tech is easy, and I've got a book that I'll give you over there.
I'm extra.
Okay, cool. Okay, cool. You went the extra distance. Most of us just went to general and called it good. How many people in here are hams? Pretty good. Yuri, you need to get yours. Russia's actually pretty big on ham radio.
Mess that up.
Yeah, you have your license? Oh, perfect. Cool.
I think 70 for my GMRS, so I got a little bit extra before they charge for it.
Yeah.
What?
Is there any test proctors for,
I might be
Multiple
able to get it to you.
webcams.
Just a second.
The whole plan is to put these up. We've already gotten permission at several hospitals to put these up on the hospitals to have backup networks when everything goes down. The advantage to having the hospitals, they have emergency power, they have money, and they're usually pretty tall, so we can establish a really good network there. Again, where we plan to put Arden, we plan to put Meshtastic. So that's kind of the plan. I talked to Baptist recently. They're all on board. They're redoing their communication system for the hospital, and when they get done doing that, they're going to contact us to go ahead and put some stuff up. What's up?
I did mention to Hoop a while ago, do we have any contacts for the casinos? See if we can put them up on the casinos?
I don't know. If somebody does, that would be awesome. If they could get us in contact with them. You don't have to approach them. We can go talk to them if you want. But any building that's around that's probably over 3 or 4 stories, or single-story building that's just elevation-wise located in a tall spot would be an excellent place to put one of these sites. We're trying to work out donations, things like that, because it is getting pretty expensive. One of the sites, one of the guys up in Deer Creek put over a couple $1,000s into it in a matter of a week. So it is getting expensive, but yeah, any help we can probably use.
Quick question, as far as like, all this art and stuff is kind of.
Hey, Steve, how do I get that up
I
there?
have a rough understanding of everything, but as you talk about putting Meshtastic nodes in, and you talk about putting
Yeah.
Meshtastic nodes
There we go.
in, advantageous places throughout the city, are there stipulations on, do you have a recommended hardware? As far as whether, what type of ESP32 boards or things along those lines?
I use this analogy daily, Ford, Chevy, Dodge. They're all going to have different prices, different advantages, different reasons that you go with this, but they're all going to get you from point A to point B usually.
Does the club as a whole have a recommendation for hardware for specific use cases?
Probably not.
I'll tell you what, Jeff gave a presentation last week in Tulsa,
Yeah.
and I've got it recorded.
You've
it's on
got it
YouTube.
recorded. and it's got the-
He's got all kinds of recommendations, hardware,
Yeah.
Do you
setup,
have that
everything.
deck? Your slide deck?
A lot of them are using the same board, which I think is the SX1262 or something. The one thing that I found out after investing heavily in one of the other brands is that Rake Wireless takes about 1/10 of the power, which is very important for solar nodes.
In playing around with it, and I'm pretty big into 3D printing, as far as manufacturing my own enclosures and things along those lines, and looking at power consumption and really looking at a completely off-grid unit. No internet connectivity, no power connectivity, anything along those lines. Power consumption is a big deal.
Yep.
It's a big deal.
It makes a big difference, and we found that out through a few months ago. We had some very cloudy days back to back, and several of our nodes, including the one that's up here, went offline. So it does make a big difference on the solar nodes.
And we keep pointing up, what is it that's up, if you don't mind me asking?
So I own the gun store here, so I've got a lot of stuff. We're actually on a little bit of a bridge, so I've got a perfect view of Sandridge, which is my site down there. And so past 8-9 years, we've streamed internet to that site for all the IP services down there, because getting commercial internet to that site was extremely expensive. So about a month ago, Chuck came to one of the last meetings. I had heard about him, but had never met him. And so we switched Sandridge over to Arden about a month ago. So all the ham radio services that are down there now are being streamed through the Arden network, completely wireless RF. And so on top of here, we've got while that was feeding the internet months ago, we did it years ago, it's now just a link to the Arden network. So we've got a link going down to Sandridge where we installed a 120-degree sectional. So all our guys in basically northwest to North Oklahoma City and Edmond now can get in. We've got it linked all the way to Deer Creek. And how far did you say that was? 15 miles. So we're streaming multiple points on that Sandridge location, and all our ham radio stuff. And we're going to have a webcam down there soon. So yeah, up top where I've got pretty decent access to the roof, we've got Arden now, and we've got Meshtastic.
So what kind of node are you running up there?
I forget. It's one of the ones with the screen on it that drains too much power, and it did go out.
The Heltex?
Yeah, that's it, the Heltec V3.
Yeah.
And yes, I am starting to get the Rake wireless setups for that. We've got another one up at Jeremiah Carstar in North Oklahoma City. He was on the Heltec, and it, in a foggy day, went down. So we're switching that over to a Rake wireless as well. But yeah, a lot of us have access to sites, and we just don't know it. We've got friends that are presidents at banks, things like that. Anybody like that, we can get in contact and expand the network out.
I've got sites that don't have elevation, so.
Yeah, if you're driving around, you see lights everywhere, or you can just see randomly way out there. That's a good site. So, and even if we just put it on one-story building, that's going to be enough to expand the network 7 miles, something like that. So it's worth reaching out to people and just say, hey, do you mind if we do this? We're trying to help people out. It's not like we're making money off of it. And usually they'll be pretty cool with it. So, so here's the current cam setup that we have on the local network. I think these are in Edmond, right here. This is, I think, Duncan, right?
This is the Edmond South Side. This is the granary. This is my tower. This is Duncan Regional Hospital, a helipad. This is Duncan Regional Hospital, a parking lot and a bird turd. And this is the perp walk at the EOC. And this is the parking at the EOC, Stevens County EOC. And you know where that place is.
And that's my house right there. So I'm kind of on a ridge where I can see Hefner and all that stuff. So I put a camera up about a month ago. So this is kind of one of the many services that we offer with the Arden network. Anything that's IP-based, we can put on there.
So you guys have an RF link to Duncan?
No, it's
That's
tunnel
probably
right
a
now, but
tunnel.
we're working on it.
Yeah.
Now, once you get down there, if we show you the map, for a long time, Chris, if you're still listening, they've had a better RF network than we've had here.
But we are feeding this right now through RF off of Sandridge.
Yeah.
So that is the cool part about it. It's not screaming speeds. I think what we've got down to Sandridge is 40 megabits a second, but it's enough to do what we need. There are ways of bumping that speed up, but just for right now, this is what we've got, which is pretty good. It's going to feed what we need right here. So, any other questions, guys?
So I know there's been discussion about piping MQQT data from Meshtastic over Arden. Is that still something that's being looked at? And
We can do it. The only problem is it encrypted or unencrypted?
mm-hmm.
That would be my only concern, is if it's encrypted.
Well, there's a block there to keep that from
Yeah.
going out.
Yeah, they actually have a application layer block on there, so,
Yeah.
yeah.
MQTT is both encrypted and unencrypted, depending on which version you're using.
Right.
So, it's possible, I just don't know, we'd have to look into that. But, I mean, it's there, we might as well use it. So. Anything else, guys? Cool, back to you, Roy.
Yeah, I don't really have any, go ahead. Oh. Yeah, I just wanted to take the remainder of the time so we could network within the group and talk about like some of your build questions. Maybe some people here have got some nodes set up. We could demonstrate some of our nodes. I know you've got some cool stuff over here.
Yeah, there's something at the front I promised to talk about a bit.
Hold on just a second.
Here you go.
Get your mic up.
Yeah.
Oh,
Go.
okay.
If I actually get that thing clipped on. I'm going to be gesturing with my hands a lot. So yeah, something that I think kind of ties in nicely to a lot of the stuff we've been talking about, like emergency communications, bridging from one network to another. This is something that I've been working on for a while that kind of ties into a lot of that. So a lot of the focus around Meshtastic, around OKC or wherever other cities has been get more nodes, try to build up the network so it can stand alone, which there's a lot of merit to that. We definitely need more nodes where we can. But if you're talking about emergency communications, I think more than anything, what you really want is redundancy. So if you can get through Meshtastic from point A to point B, that's fine. But if there's a gap somewhere, you want some way to be able to bridge that gap over whatever protocol you can. So I've been working on this thing I'm calling Babel Fox. Babel is in Babelfish. You can probably get the reference, or at least some of you can. Which is something I've been calling a mesh-connected gateway. So this thing is in itself a capable Meshtastic node with a 1 watt amplifier on it. So the max unlicensed power that you can do. But also it's got a cell modem on this for something that's called narrowband IoT, which is basically a type of the cell network that is designed for IoT things. It's really low power and also, it's really low power, long distance sort of thing. Kind of ties in nicely with LoRa and all the other sort of also ham radio sort of stuff. So the point of this is that you could put it somewhere like in a remote area, wherever, and be able to have it as your gateway between different networks, whether it's Meshtastic or Arden you could probably do, or basically anything else. Basically being your gateway, so you can get from one protocol to another. So whatever emergency communication you need or whatever other information needs to get out, you can, and push it out however you can and hopefully get it where it needs to be. So this thing is made to be low power, but also really capable, because on the back it's not, your ESP32 sort of stuff. It's not the sort of stuff you find on a Heltec. It's a lot closer to a Raspberry Pi. This thing runs Linux. So you could run whatever software you want on it within the limitations. It's not as fast as a Raspberry Pi, but it's way faster than your usual sort of nodes you have. So yeah, I think it kind of ties into that philosophy of redundancy over anything else. Like, it seems like in previous meetings here, MQTT has been a little bit of a naughty word, shall we say. Wanting to keep everything, pure Meshtastic, and that's a philosophy that I really don't agree with, and I think a lot of people haven't either. The whole point should be able to get your communication out however you can. Yeah.
MQTT just uses a transport layer between mesh areas and then all that over a non-Meshtastic network? That's what
Yeah.
I understood. I mean, basically
Yeah,
it's just-
I probably could have made that a bit more clear. So this thing can obviously transmit or receive Meshtastic, but also it has that cell modem on it so that you can uplink to the internet to whatever MQTT server or whatever other server you're connecting to and get your message out that way, or receive messages. For example, put this, on top of a tower where you can get cell coverage but the rest of the area below can't. So you can get your internet data in and then transmit that over Meshtastic to whatever node you may have at like a campground or whatever else. Applications like that.
How does the cell service work? Do you have to have some sort of a cell plan, or?
It is a cell plan like it is a cell network. It's kind of off the sides compared to your usual sort of 4G, 5G networks, but it is a cell network. On the back of this thing, there is a SIM card slot on there, and you can get NB IoT, narrowband IoT cards put in here, and at that point, it basically just acts like a cell network. It's a lot lower power and it's lower speed. I think the max speed is like 250 kilobits per second, but that's still far faster than your usual like Meshtastic narrow long fast, for example. So you're not going to be sending like webcam streams or whatever through it like they are doing with Arden, but you can get your text data through. You could probably get pictures if you needed to.
A lot of times that's all that's needed.
Yeah.
I
You-
walking around in a tornado disaster
Yeah.
neighborhood, that may be all he's got, but that's better than nothing.
Yeah, and that's the sort of thing I had in mind with this, just like get the information in or out, whether protocol you want. At some point, I was even considering trying to put a dial-up modem on this thing because, hey, there's still places in this country where the only, reliable communication is dial-up over old school phone line. I didn't do that because those are actually starting to be decommissioned now, but it was a sort of philosophy I had for this thing. So yeah, I can't demo this thing yet because the software's not ready. I wanted to have it ready, but I was dealing with some life issues and sickness and all that. But maybe by next month I could have this and be able to show it off.
Now, is that an Ethernet port on there?
Yeah, that's Ethernet.
So you could basically take one of those and
You could plug it up to whatever sort of Ethernet uplink or whatever.
an Arden node router and tell it where to go and let it pop out elsewhere.
Yeah. And that's also got USB on it, so whatever other USB modem, whatever else you want to connect to it, you could. And also this thing's fairly low power. It's going to pull more power in operation than, like even a Heltec, for example, especially because this thing has a 1 watt amplifier on it for 900 megahertz. But I believe at full blast, this thing is never going to be pulling more than about 10 watts, and even that's just going to be brief peak. So you could run this reasonably on a solar setup. Probably like a 10 watt, maybe 15 watt solar setup could keep something like this running continuously for, your sort of like remote locations or whatever. And also, if anyone's interested in this, I already have all the design files for this on GitHub. If anyone's interested, I can show you on my laptop here where I have that. Again, the design's not quite finalized, haven't been able to properly test it. I'm fairly confident in it, but it remains to be seen.
Awesome.
So you designed that yourself?
Yeah, this PCB was my design.
Very cool. Can you tell us your name again? I'm sorry.
Oh, Matt Petrie. Yeah, I'm an computer engineer in town here.
Anybody else have any other questions?
What are the three ports on there? One obviously is the
Yeah, one of them's 900 megahertz. Then the other one is actually 2.4 gigahertz, because the LoRa chip on here isn't the usual sort of ones on a lot of these devices. It's a newer one, the LR1121, which also has better like receive sensitivity than the usual devices we have. So this thing should be able to receive and transmit really far, relative to what sort of setup you have for an antenna, tower, whatnot. And the third antenna on there is obviously for the cell modem. Yeah, any other questions on it?